You are worth $2.41 million. Your neighbor Tom, 3 doors down, does not know this. Your brother-in-law Marcus, who spent last Thanksgiving explaining, unprompted, overstuffing, why renting is actuarially smarter than owning in this market, does not know this either. Nobody at your job knows it. Your face doesn't know it. It's 5:52 a.m., 4 minutes before your alarm, and you're about to spend the next 16 hours proving that 7 figures can hide in plain sight, wearing the same jeans it's worn for 15 years. Nobody taught you to wake up at 5:52. No podcast host with a ring light told you 5 a.m. builds character. Your body just stopped needing an alarm once it stopped needing to dread anything. You sleep 9.5 hours some nights. You're not proud of it. You're not ashamed of it either. The house is a 1,900 square foot ranch on Comstock Avenue, the kind of street a coastal real estate account would scroll past in half a second. You bought it 11 years ago for $214,000. Zillow says it's worth $391,400 this morning, though you haven't opened Zillow in maybe 4 months. Paid off for 3 years now, the payoff letter sits unframed in a drawer because framing a piece of paper about not owing money felt like something Danielle from your old office would do, and you're not Danielle. Here's the rule that got you here, the one thing worth screenshotting if you screenshot nothing else. Ask, is this worth it to me, exactly once per category of spending, then never ask again. You asked it about coffee shops 11 years ago. You haven't asked it since. A pound of Costco beans, ground the night before, saves you something like $1,800 a year over the Dutch Bros on Route 9. But $1,800 was never the point. The point was closing the question permanently. While the coffee brews, you check the account. Fidelity, same login since 1999. 90 seconds, start to finish. The only time all day you'll look at money on purpose. $1.71 million sits across 3 funds, total U.S. market, total international, and a bond fund that's been quietly fattening since your allocation started shifting at 45. Exactly the way every retirement calculator on the internet said it should. 19 years, and you haven't sold a single share. Not in March 2020, when the market dropped 34% in 5 weeks and your account bled the price of a used Corolla every couple of days. Not in 2022, when half of financial Twitter was writing eulogies for the entire system. You kept buying, every 2 weeks, automatically, rent paid to a landlord you'll never meet, except the landlord is you, 20 years from now. The rest of the $2.41 million isn't sitting in some app you refresh for a dopamine hit. $391,400 in the house, unencumbered, the deed in a fireproof sentry box in the closet next to your passport, and a photo of your dad standing way too proud in front of a Buick. $211,000 in a taxable brokerage, the bridge that carries you from whenever you decide to stop working to age 59 and a half, when the retirement accounts open up without a penalty. $61,000 sitting in high-yield savings, earning basically nothing, on purpose. 18 months of expenses doing almost nothing, because doing almost nothing is its entire job. Cash isn't an investment. Cash is the thing that keeps you from ever having to sell investments at the worst possible moment, which is the only moment the market ever seems to offer you. And $28,000 tucked into a 529 for your niece, Harper, who is 7 and has no idea it exists, and neither does anyone else in the family. You close the laptop before the number can turn into a mood. Today the market will rise, fall, or sit flat and boring, and you will do nothing about it. That took a decade to build and cost you nothing but patience, the rarest raw material in personal finance, and the one nobody sells a course on. You drive a 2018 Camry, 121,000 miles, bought 3 years old for cash out of a CarMax outside Harrisburg. At the light on Route 9, a lifted F-150 pulls up next to you, brand new, platinum trim, roughly $71,000 out the door. Statistically, he financed it. Call it $1,140 a month over 72 months at current rates. Invested instead, compounding at a conservative 8%, that's close to $1.1 million in 25 years. That truck isn't a truck. It's a millionaire who's never going to exist. The light turns green. He roars off. You sip coffee from a thermos you got free at a logistics conference in 2019. Here's the part people find hard to believe. You still work. Senior project manager. 14 years. Same firm. $114,000 a year. Real money. Not How is he a millionaire? Money. Nobody in that building suspects the guy with the scuffed 10-year-old lunch cooler could write a check for the parking garage next door. You work because you like the actual work, and because every paycheck now is pure surplus with nowhere urgent to go. You've noticed what that does to your posture in a 10 a.m. status meeting. When your director floats a plan you think is a mistake, you say, evenly, "I don't think that works, and here's why." And you mean it without flinching. Because you can afford honesty, possibly the single most expensive thing sold inside any office building, and you're the only one in the room who's fully paid up for it. 2 years ago, they offered you a promotion. 30% more pay, roughly 300% more meetings. You said no. Your director looked at you like you'd turned down a kidney for someone he loved. That raise would have moved your target retirement date up by about 4 months. The stress of the new role would have moved something else in the opposite direction, and you weren't willing to find out how much. This is what the money actually buys, at the end of all of it. Not a boat, not a G-Shock replaced by a Rolex. The no. At 10:20, a younger coworker catches you refilling your thermos. Priya, 27, sharp, quietly drowning. "Can I ask something weird? You seem like you've got it figured out." She's $9,400 into credit card debt and, in her own words, genuinely could not tell you what I bought. You remember being 27 with $6,000 in card debt that felt heavier as shame than it ever did as a number on a statement. You could lecture her, instead, want the 2 sentences that actually fixed it for me? Pay yourself first, automatically, before you can touch the money. And never carry a balance on anything that doesn't grow in value. That's the whole thing. Everything else is commentary. You don't tell her you're a millionaire, you never tell anyone that, but that afternoon you send her a PDF of the same book someone slid across a desk to you in 2003. Wealth moves sideways sometimes, in ways no bank statement ever shows. Lunch is leftover lentil soup, maybe $2.80 a serving. Your coworkers order DoorDash, $18, $19 a day, and complain about money in the exact same breath they place the order. You used to feel something close to smug about this. You're a little embarrassed by that now. Somewhere around your first $500,000, the smugness burned off, and something closer to indifference took its place. Other people's spending stopped being a scoreboard in your head. You genuinely don't want the $19 version more. Past a certain point, frugality stops being restraint, and quietly becomes preference. The cage door's been open for years. You just like the room you're in. A guy 2 tables over is day trading on his phone, jaw tight, thumb moving fast. You feel something close to tenderness. You were him for about 8 months in your early 30s. It cost you $9,200 to learn you were the product, not the customer. Your phone buzzes. Not a financial advisor. You've never had one. It's your sister Kate. Her water heater died overnight. $1,350 she doesn't have sitting anywhere. You can hear the tightness in her voice. The sound of someone rehearsing an apology for existing before she said the real ask out loud. "I'll send it in an hour." "I'll pay you back. It's not a loan. Water heaters break. That's not a character flaw." You move $1,350 out of the cash cushion, which refills quietly from surplus you never notice going missing. Here's the math nobody puts in a thumbnail. $1,350 is roughly 0.056% of your net worth. For Kate, it was a crisis about to land on a card at 26.9% APR. The kind of thing that metastasizes into $2,000 plus of stress paid off over 18 months if it's left alone. The best return you'll get all year isn't in the brokerage account. It's deleting an emergency from someone you love before it has time to compound against them. Mid-afternoon, a weak moment, a watch you've wanted for 2 years, a Tissot, nothing exotic, drops to $890 on a flash sale. You could afford it the way other people afford a pack of gum. You put it in the cart. Then you run the ritual that replaced, "Can I afford it?" years ago, back when that question retired itself for good. 1. Will you still want this in 30 days? 2. Are you buying the object or the feeling? 3. Who, exactly, are you wearing it for? You sit with the third one the longest. The honest answer, most of the time, is strangers, and your entire adult financial life has been built quietly around refusing to pay for strangers' opinions of you. You close the tab, not with willpower, with recognition. Your espresso machine passed this exact ritual 2 years ago, and you use it every morning with zero regret. The ritual was never a wall, it's a filter, and filters exist to let the right things through, not to keep everything out. Someday somebody's going to find out about the money and expect a story. Crypto, an inheritance, a lucky pick. There isn't one. No lottery, no inheritance. Your father's layoff at 54, with $8,000 in the bank, took care of that particular myth a long time ago. No single winning trade. Your best trade, across 19 years, was never making one. At 26, you started putting 15% of a $38,000 salary into a Roth, about $475 a month, and it felt, at the time, like amputation. Every raise after that, half went to lifestyle, half went to the machine, until the machine was quietly eating close to 30% of a six-figure income, and you'd stopped feeling it entirely. You stayed married. You kept term life insurance current. You stayed out of car loans after the first and only one, back in 2004. By any honest measure, you were mediocre at picking investments and genuinely elite at one specific skill, not interrupting the process. 19 years. That's the whole secret, and it's a disappointing one to hear out loud. There's no secret. There's a long, boring corridor with no windows, and almost everyone exits early because nobody applauds in there and the walls never change. Compound interest is the only miracle in finance that works exclusively on the people willing to be bored by it. Your net worth crossed $100,000 after about 7 years. The second $100,000 took 3. The most recent $100,000 took under 5 months. The corridor has no windows, but it does have an exit, and the exit looks exactly like a Tuesday afternoon like this one. You pull into the driveway around 5:35. Your neighbor Tom waves from his lawn. Tom has a boat, a camper, 2 SUVs under 3 years old, and a HELOC that's freed up a lot of cash flow. Tom makes more than you do on paper. By every visible measure, Tom is winning. Privately, you'd guess Tom couldn't survive 4 months without a paycheck landing on schedule. You're not better than Tom. His boat makes real memories on a real lake with his kids, and there's no spreadsheet that captures that. But you've seen the other ending too, up close. You watched your father get laid off at 54 with $8,000 to his name and something close to terror in his eyes, and at 19, in one cold and fairly permanent moment, you decided nobody would ever get to do that to you. Every identical pair of jeans, every Camry kept past 100,000 miles, every automatic transfer that hit before you could talk yourself out of it. All of it is a 19-year-old keeping a promise he made to himself in a kitchen you don't live in anymore. The neighbors see a modest ranch and a 5-year-old sedan. They can't see the promise underneath it. Invisible wealth is still wealth. Visible wealth, half the time, is just expensive noise with a monthly payment attached. Dinner is with your wife Elena. You didn't build any of this alone. 22 years ago, on your third date, she told you, unprompted, over cheap pasta, that she had $6,200 saved and an actual plan for it. You fell in love with her somewhere in that sentence. 4 real money fights in 2 decades, and every one resolved the same way. The monthly meeting. First Sunday of the month, 30 minutes, coffee. Both accounts open on the table, no ambushes. Money fights in most marriages, you've come to believe, are almost never math problems. They're surprise problems. You and Elena deleted the surprises years ago, one Sunday at a time. After dinner, you walk 2 miles, the same loop past the elementary school and back, most nights. A podcast host in your earbuds asks a guest this morning's version of the same question everyone eventually asks. What's your number? When is it enough? You passed your number roughly $890,000 ago, and nothing happened when you did. No confetti, no shift in the weather. The number just became a bigger number, and you were still you, walking the same loop in the same shoes. That's the lesson that arrived after the money, not before it. The finish line was never real. What the money actually delivered showed up years earlier, gradually, in pieces too small to photograph. The day you stopped flinching at mail from the county. The day a layoff rumor at work bored you instead of gutting you. The day you said no to the promotion and slept fine that night. Wealth was never really the number in the Fidelity app. Wealth is the density of no problem. Across an ordinary week, water heater, no problem. Layoff rumor, no problem. Market down 12%, no problem. Root canal, no problem. Paid in full, no financing app involved. You're a machine that converts money into calm, and calm, it turns out, is the actual product. The number was just the raw material. You read in bed for 20 minutes. Tomorrow, one status meeting, a dentist appointment at 2:15, and Harper's birthday next week. Small, no big gift, because the gift already exists and it's growing quietly at $28,000 and counting in a 529 she doesn't know she has. Someday she'll open a letter explaining exactly what's been happening in an account with her name on it since she was a few weeks old. That letter will be the loudest thing your money ever does, and you won't be in the room when she reads it. Today you earned $438, spent $31, gave away $1,350, and declined a watch you wanted for 2 years. Nobody clapped. Nobody knows any of it happened. Tomorrow the market opens, does whatever it's going to do, and you do nothing about it. Beautifully. Again. Because when money finally becomes permanently yours, it stops making noise. And somewhere along the way, so do you.